One of the big new features added in Android Nougat is multi-window support. And this allows your apps to run side by side with other apps and even share information with them. So in this video, we're going to see how to enable that in your apps and customize the user experience by, for example, setting default and minimum widths for your apps in split screen mode. So let's jump right in. Go over to Android Studio, start a new project, and we'll call it Split Screen Demo. Next. And here we'll switch to Android 7. You don't need a minimum SDK of Android 7 here. If you want to support other devices, then you can do. And if the user is not running Android 7, then any attempt at doing the split screen mode will just fail. But we'll go for Android 7 for the purposes of this demo, and then our usual empty activity with main activity. Here we go. So we begin in the Android manifest file where we set the attributes that allow us to use the split screen modes. And the first one is resizable activity, and we'll set that to true. So this will allow your app to use the multi-window mode. There's also another mode that we can activate within the activity itself called picture-in-picture. So if we enable that as well, that's ideally used for something like watching a video, and then you can have that video appear over the top of, for example, a web page. So once you've enabled both of those, you can of course just choose one, but you can't have picture-in-picture without resizable activity being true. In the documentation for multi-window support, it gives the option to add layout instructions here as well, where we can do things like Android default height, and then give it a default height of, for example, 500 pixels. We can also set the gravity if we want that to work differently to usual in split screen mode, and we can set the minimum height and the minimum width to say 300 pixels. Now I'm actually getting a message here saying that the layout element is not allowed here. So I suspect this has not been officially added yet, but you should definitely try that out if you want to specify a default height, gravity, or minimum width or height. Alright, so now we've enabled multi-window mode. There are a few things that we can do in code as well. So we can call the method is in multi-window mode to find out if we're in multi-window mode. So we're in multi-window mode. So if you want your app to behave differently in multi-window mode, then you can use this Boolean to detect which mode you're in and act accordingly. You can do the same thing for is in picture-in-picture mode. So if you were showing video there, you might want to reduce the video controls, for example. We can also use the on multi-window changed method, and this will be called whenever the mode changes. So you can then call one of these to see whether we've gone into or out of multi-window mode, or into or out of picture-in-picture mode. Has changed. Alright, so that's pretty much all there is to it. Actually quite easy to activate. In order to test it out, we will need a new AVD, Android Virtual Device, because we'll need one that's running Android N. So I'll download the 60-bit version of Nougat there. And this will then just download and install and enable us to use that in our virtual device. And there we go. So finish, and then we'll select that system image. Next. And finish. And then we'll press play to launch that virtual device. And when it's ready, we'll run our app on that emulator. And here we go. We're up and running. So let's now run our app on the new Android 7 device. And here we go. So to activate our split screen mode, we long press on the square button there, and you can see it turns into a split screen symbol. And then we can select from our recent apps. So I've just used the gallery there. If you haven't used any recent apps, then nothing will appear there. So you'll just need to use something else like the gallery or the browser. So if we tap on that, simple as that. We've now enabled split screen mode with another app. We can obviously get rid of split screen mode if we want to, just by dragging down from the center there. Try that again. And that will move us back into normal full screen mode. All right, so that's how you enable and manage multi-window mode on your apps. Hope you enjoy that, and a good way of integrating it into your latest app.